You know, the AEW television deal is not done. I know a lot of people want it to be done. I know a lot of people are living with a tremendous amount of anxiety. And it shows, you know, they're posting on social media, on Twitter. It's always a point of contention. And the anxiety can be for two different reasons. You can be anxious because it was because you want AEW to fail and not get a deal, or you don't want AEW to fail and you want them to get a deal and you want it to get and both sides, because you know there's a war. I don't know if you knew this. There was a, you know, you can't just watch everything. You have to pick sides. I don't know if you knew this. But both sides want this information out because they want to stake their claim and say AEW sucks or AEW is great. You know, that's essentially where we're at right now. And honestly, it is very fatiguing for that aspect. The grifters are excited to know what's going to happen because they need to set their narrative very soon. They need to set, you know, they need to get into a group chat or whatever, and they have to determine amongst themselves, you know, well, where do we move the goalposts to? You know? But it's not done. It's still not done. We know this because Tony Khan on the Ring of Honor media call previous to the show, right? What was it, on Thursday? Outright said, you know, no, the deal is not done. Here are the main talking points. They're having great talks, he said. He's been saying that for a while. Having great talks with WBDs. They're still in conversation. So what that means is that they're still in the exclusivity period. And I think it was speculated a while back that the exclusivity period was up at the end of June. But no, we're still in it right now, apparently, because they're still having talks. He said that that the meetings are great. He has some great contact with David Zaslav, that in fact he's going to meet him in Paris to chat about it. I think that you also need to underscore the significance of that statement as well. Like, David Zaslav wouldn't be necessarily making time for you in Paris during the Olympics when he's probably doing all sorts of other types of negotiations. You know, if he's making time for you, then I feel like there's something around the corner. This feels like a significant milestone. But he says that, you know, the meetings were great with Zaslav and Kathleen Finch and Bruce Campbell. No, he does not, the Bruce Campbell who has a chainsaw for an arm. And he says it's a very good ongoing dialogue. And I feel like he put a little emphasis on the ongoing, you know, where it's like, we're still negotiating it. We're still talking, right? So the deal's not done. Okay? I think this is clear. I think, you know, Tony Khan, just like every human on planet Earth, has some qualities and has some faults. But one of his qualities is that you never get the impression that he lies to media. He might, you know, artfully dance around a question. He might outright dodge one, you know. That's fine. You know, completely okay with that. But I also think that he, you know, if the deal wasn't done and so on and so forth, I think he just outright say it, right? And why isn't the deal done yet? The deal done yet? Hey, Zach McGibbon, how you doing, Gibby? Welcome to the chat. Nice to see you, man. Why isn't it done yet? Well, you know, a lot of people are saying it's because the NBA deal is nuts. You know, look, I'm following this from afar. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm not deep in the trenches on this one, but you know, in case you missed it, the NBA. You know, the NBA a couple of weeks ago had announced that they were going with, what was it, ABC and Amazon, that they were splitting the games between the two, if I'm not mistaken. But then a couple of days ago, WBD flew in and just, spoiled the broth. And they were like, no. Hey, hang on. We matched the offer. You can't say no to our matched offer. That's in our contract kind of thing, right? What was the I don't remember the exact phrasing, but it was something to the effect that the NBA, Warner Brothers had said that the NBA underestimates our capacity, or underestimates our contractual agreement, something like that. It was something where they're basically saying, we're going to go fight you in court over this. We're ready to go litigious on this one. We're not just dropping, this so easily. We matched the deal. You should be taking it, but they're not, because the NBA said, no, you know what? They can't. They may have matched it, but we're saying no. And that's why they came back. And they're like, no, that's not how the deal works. That's not what's in the contract. So no surprise here. This one's going to be litigated. It's not going to be just a contract that everyone signs and everyone goes home happy. This is going to create a lot of uncertainty and a lot of frustration and a lot of monies being spent as well. So that being said, a lot of people are saying, well, AEW won't get their deal until the NBA deal is sealed, which I kind of buy, because it makes sense. It's probably the biggest chunk of budget that Warner Brothers Discovery is going to cough up. I don't have, like I said, my analysis doesn't go as deep. Well, what about cash flow? So I don't know. I can't go that deep. I'd be misrepresenting myself, and I'd probably end up sounding like an idiot, and you'd be like, oh, look at this idiot. Which you do, a lot of you can do, anyway, which it's not that big a deal. You don't have to wait for me to say something stupid to call me an idiot, is what I'm trying to say. But don't, please. But what we're getting at here is, in this very roundabout way, is that AEW may be waiting for this deal to be done, or before they get their deal. Not AEW is waiting; it's more like Warner Bros. Discovery is waiting for the deal to be done before finalizing with AEW. I buy that, like I said, but one thing that I'm also starting to believe or get into is that Warner Brothers Discovery, that AEW might actually be in a position where they got an offer for Warner Bros. And they were like, nah, this doesn't work for me, brother. And they're doing a little more back and forth because maybe they feel they're being undervalued, particularly in this environment where AEW, where the NBA has not been signed. So Tony maybe is playing that card where he's like, you've got all you're about to lose the NBA, and you're just giving me X. I would like Y. And maybe this is, I kind of feel like Tony got a deal, and it was beneath his expectations, and now he's going off, and now he's just waiting for the exclusivity period to finish off so that he can go negotiate with someone else. It kind of feels this is what we're doing here. It kind of feels like this is what's happening, right? But then again, I don't have firsthand knowledge to any of this. If he's going to meet Zaslav in Paris, I feel like that's meaningful. Like that means something. That that there'll probably be something coming out of that situation. So I don't think it's it's far-fetched, right? I would also think that maybe Zaslav might at some point just want to wrap something up and put a stamp on something. Because look, right now, this guy is on the precipice. Zaslav is on the precipice of being the guy who lost the NBA deal. A 30-year relationship with TNT? He might be the guy who let this happen under his watch. And that's kind of wild. That's more than kind of wild. It's bonkers. Like, no one wants that. And, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, a journalistic report. I don't remember off the top of my head. I can't quite remember. Was it Front Office Sports? No, it was from The Puck, right? It was from The Puck, where the author of the article was directly positing that, where he was saying, look, if he loses the NBA and he loses AEW, like, what is this guy doing, kind of thing? Is that David Zaslav is the only thing he's good for is, canning movies that are ready to go, that are completely finished and done, and then shelve them? Is that all he's good for? Slashing into movie production, but he can't land the deals. That's kind of wild. So I think there's part of that. I think Tony is being patient, and he's looking to get the best possible deal. Because I don't know what to tell you, but there's so many people who think that AEW is in this terrible position, but from a pure pure television business standpoint, with the amount of ratings that they get every week, 52 weeks a year, they're absolutely a viable component for any television network, for any television station. There's something there that you look at nonetheless. So that's very interesting. So look, it's not done yet. But here's something that also came out of that same dialogue, of that same conversation that he was having at the media call. He being Tony Khan. He after, talking about the contracts and no, they're not signing, we're having great conversations, and it's a very good ongoing dialogue. He then says that a prominent member of wrestling media told him that WWE's public relations department is telling other media people, that AEW's new TV rights deal is done and is along the lines as his previous deal with Warner Bros. Discovery. And that completely came out of left field. That came out of nowhere. That was the thing where no one even asked him the question. No one pressed. They were moving on to someone else. He had answered it was Brandon Thurston who asked him about the deal, right? And then once that was like, thank you, Brandon, for your question. And they were moving on. And they move on to the other person, and Tony's like, well, wait, just a second. Hold on a second. Like he's a debate bro, right? He was going, no. And he says, look, and he offers up the information. And I've got the quote. Here we go. I don't know why WWE is telling people about our media rights deal. I don't know whether it's any of their business. I don't really understand why WWE PR people... why WWE PR calls people and talks about my business. WWE PR is telling people that the deal is done, and that the deal is done at the same level that it was going to be our previous deal. That's not the case. It's none of their business. I think WWE PR really gets involved in a lot of things they shouldn't get involved in. I can tell you that is very untrue. When we make a deal for AEW, it's going to be a great deal with a big increase over what we've been doing. We're in a really good position we're in a really good position and have been doing great business here despite what they're trying to do to us. You know exactly what he's talking about when he says, I think WWE PR really gets involved in a lot of things they shouldn't get involved in. Oh, Tony, look at you, brother. Like, I thought that was, I was impressed. I was like, that wasn't just like a little passing thing. I was like, okay. Yeah, he was champing at the bit to bring that up. Oh my God. He just wanted someone to ask the right question. He was like, okay, you're not asking me any further. All right, I'll bring it up. Now, we can ask the question that thousands of WWE fans have asked already. And it's a legitimate question to ask. Why would WWE do these, right? Why would they do this? What makes this advantageous for WWE to do this? You know, a lot of people say it very dismissively, saying, this is so under WWE, right? You know, keep that in your noodle for a second here. Well, but why would WWE do this? Well, first of all, they established the narrative that this deal isn't as good as TK is letting on, is promising. So, you know, we're just continuing to hammer home that the perception that AEW is a failure, right? And if you're controlling the narrative, everyone else is fighting upstream against it. These are very basic PR plays here. You just need the contacts to make them happen, and this is exactly what's happening. It continues to spread chaos, of course, you know, just the discourse and the confusion, and podcasters going, AEW in the mud, you know, AEW failed, and you get the YouTube thumbnails with the graph, with the red graph arrows, you know, pointing down, you know, and all that stuff. You continue to supply this cottage industry of people saying bad things about AEW. Or, here's something else. Here's another reason why they might do it. Maybe Warner Bros. Discovery gets wind of the fact that people are leaking information online saying that the deal is done, and they get wind of that, and they're like, this makes us a little angry. Why would they be doing this? And then they assume that it's AEW, that it's Tony Khan's camp that is leaking information, because indeed, why would WWE do that? So it makes a lot of sense for them to go, well, why are you leaking information, Tony? And that can create tension within the negotiations, undue tension, because Warner Bros. Might be thinking to themselves, well, Tony is leaking information to the media because he wants some kind of leverage, so on and so on. So it could also do that. It could do all three of these things. It can do all three of these things. Because of course, right? So, you know, it's fascinating to me. And it explains a lot. When people hop into the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, link is in the description. We'd love to have you there. Or in other Discords that I hang on in, or other parts of social media. When people hop in and they start sharing links from random wrestling accounts or small-time Twitter influencers saying, the deal is done. I just got news. The AEW deal is done. And everyone is like celebrating and going, woo, what great news. And I'm like, who is this person? What are they doing? What do they have to gain? What is the end game of this? Why are they publishing this information on Twitter? And now I'm starting to see that it's another situation, not unlike the Fast Nationals. I know I don't talk a lot about the Fast National situation, but you know, it's out there if you want to check it out, where essentially small-time influencers, whoever, get in contact with PR organizations like WWE, and they get so excited to break the news because they get an email from Legental over in WWE, and they're like, they sent me a thing, I gotta use it, because they feel so good being a part of the show. A lot of them just want to be a part of the show, right? When they go to the media scrums, it's not time to ask hard questions. It's time to be part of the show, right? Instead of realizing that if they were part of the show, they should be then getting paid for being part of the show. Anyhow, they're excited. They're awestruck. You know, you've got the little stars blinking all around their eyes, you know, like an anime character. And they're like, the deal is done. I just got news. And then people press them and say, well, if it's the number I got, it's pretty good. Well, what is the number? I can't say. Why can't you say? What is this? Why are you saying I have the information, but I can't tell you what the information is? This is so annoying. And yet, people just jump on these tweets. They jump on these people. You know, Roman avatars, Kenny Omega avatars, whoever the fuck. People who don't even use their real names. Who don't put their face out there at the very least. Real name is another thing. But who hide behind things. And look, I expect you, the A+ audience of this D-, the A+ audience of this D-list podcast, to know better. And you see how, and it's fascinating to me how we have people in this environment who have been breaking news and have been following this business longer than most of you listening right now have been alive. Or if it's been shorter, they've been doing a good job. Look, guys like Dave Meltzer, Sean over at Fightful, Mike Johnson. Then you've got, Brandon and John who do great work. Why is it that we will always, not always, but often try to discredit these people who are doing real good work, true to form work, putting together reports, making sure everything is sourced accurately, and not being flippant about the news? But we'll go after them. We'll hundreds of people will argue with them on a daily basis, and they will be cited as uncredible, uncredible, untrustworthy. And yet, Kenny Omega fan 6493, I just got news. Or, pro wrestling sliceoflife.com. We're happy to report that the AEW news has happened. Like the AEW deal has happened. Why do we turn to these people? Who are they? And why don't we put the faith on the people who have been doing the work? And you know who the good ones are. You know who the bad ones are. Does everyone make a mistake? Sure. And when your track record, especially when it comes to Dave, and this is something that I think is absolutely wild. A guy who's been doing this for 40 years? How long has Dave been at this? He's been doing this for 40 years, has a body of work, an extensive body of work that will present itself overall as being accurate, a true testament of everything that's happened in the history of pro wrestling. But, there's a couple of things he flubbed. There's a couple of things he didn't do quite right. We wish he had been better in these circumstances. And this is all people will zero in on. They'll zero in on a what? Let's say I'm being like a 20% of things that didn't quite work out or weren't exactly correct. Let's say, if I'm being mean, I feel like 20% might even be high. But the entire 80%, like the rest of the catalog, the vast majority of the work, we're all going to toss it aside and we'll listen to, Kenny Friend on Twitter or whatever. Omega for life. And then I question, because that's what you should do. Who is this person? What are they trying to do? And then I get piled on. And then I was like, and then, well, why would they say they have sources? They're in the know. What are you talking about? Shut up. But we'll challenge Dave, who has absolutely has true sources in the business. And we're going to say he's the liar, that he's not credible. Anyway. Tangent. The way I see this with WWE right now, coming back to them, their PR wing, reaching out to, a lot of it is conforming to a preconceived notion, and it is also buying into a fabricated version of, for instance, Dave Meltzer, that has been promoted and promulgated by very specific people who have very large audiences. So a lot of people have a prejudice against Dave, but have never read a shred of Dave's work, only taking it from guys who are in the business, who maybe some of the things that Dave have reported in the past sort of impacted them negatively in some form. So now they're just out there getting their revenge. There's that too, by fabricating this untrustworthy avatar that is Dave Meltzer, as opposed to the real deal Dave Meltzer. Just saying. Anyway, thank you, Chad, for derailing me. So the PR stuff, WWE reaching out with the PR stuff, coming back to that, there was a time when Triple H took over and Vince was kicked out and Nick Khan took over, that I was like, let's see what this business, how WWE conducts his business now that Vince is gone. Let's see what kind of changes are going to happen. Because, we all know how destructive Vince has been to pro wrestling. And I was curious to see how this was going to change, right? Because you bring in Nick Khan. Nick Khan has no time for all this carny bullshit. Like, he is working at the upper echelons of entertainment and media. Like, what does he care about, secondary promotions and all this bullshit? He's like, what does he have to, or tertiary, or he just wants to grow his business, grow his brand, make as much money as he can for his for himself and his shareholders and whatnot. So I'm like, maybe under Nick Khan things will be different, but it turns out, like, I'm thinking it won't. I'm thinking it's not going to change. Like, if WWE is going to do stuff like this to try to actively undermine AEW, and do the Fast Nationals and continue to do counter programming like they're doing with the SummerSlam pre-show this weekend, that suddenly is going to start, all of a sudden is beginning at the exact same time that Collision will be starting on TBS. It's special start time this week. Just so happens, isn't that a coincidence? It's the same shit. It's the same company and it's the same tactics. That's all they're doing. It's not about pro wrestling. It's about WWE. Anyone who tells me that WWE is, WWE is good for wrestling, I tell them no. WWE has never been good for wrestling. It's only been good for WWE. When I hear AJ Styles talking, in Japan, when talking about Noah and talking about, how WWE going to Japan will be good for wrestling, I say, no, it is not. It'll be good for WWE, but I would be shuddering at the thought, if I'm a Japanese promotion, at the thought of these guys coming in. Because this has happened before. The history is there. The territories, the AWA, JCP, Georgia, Stampede, and then we can move on to ECW. We can move on to WCW, to Evolve, to fucking World of Sport. All stamped out because WWE didn't want an iota of competition. They pretend, but they're not. The history is there. Yeah, but they bought ECW and they kept it alive. Yeah, yes, they kept it alive for a little while. Then what did they do? They buried it. And that was it. Oh, but they tried with WCW. Yeah, I guess maybe you could say they tried, but then they stopped trying. Because you know what happened? Because Vince was like, nah, man, I am not letting, even if it's a brand that I own now, nothing is bigger than my company. WCW, ECW, no. They will never get as big as the WWF or WWE. He could have. He could be doing so much with all the tapes from all the territories that he owns. He can barely, well, I say Vince now, but WWE, they barely throw everything up on Peacock. Evolve is the same thing. They ended up buying out Evolve, World of Sport. They started pushing NXT UK and buying up all the talent. They started buying up all the talent from the UK scene, all the stars, so that when World of Sport was struggling to get back on TV and make things happen, they didn't have all the people that the British fans wanted to see. They had all gone to NXT UK. No, great stuff for the scene. Good backing there, World Wrestling Entertainment. It's the same company. They're not going to change. So, I'm sitting around and I'm looking at their relationship with TNA, and I wanted to keep an open mind, but I can't anymore. I can't. We've seen the evidence so many times. I shudder to think of what's going to happen with TNA. Because look at the nature of the relationship right now. TNA sends over to NXT, their women's champion, Jordynne Grace, who is arguably one of the biggest stars in the company. Joe Hendry, right? He has this super popular gimmick. Everyone loves Joe Hendry. Who does NXT send over to TNA for their big pay-per-view? Mind you, they send Tavion Heights and Charles Dempsey and generic Build-A-Wrestler number 3. And then the weeks before, they send Izzy Dame and Tatum Paxley. They're not sending, notice they didn't send Trick Williams. They didn't send the champ. They're not sending Roxanne Perez. They're not sending their top people over there. And then, what's going to happen is that the people that TNA is sending over, WWE is gonna lap them up. They're gonna bring them over. I mean, we know that's what's gonna happen with Jordynne Grace. She asked to get her contract shortened, and they said yes. As of January, you're free to go. I don't think she's gonna shop around much. It's the same fucking company. It's the same principles. They're still stuck in the 80s. They can be right now, they are a $1 billion company. They are making more money than you and I can ever imagine, can ever fathom, and yet they're still being predatory. They're still being monopolistic. They're stomping out the competition because this is not good competition. You know, doing this counter programming no, it's shitty and it's bullshit. And it was bullshit when they did it with the Starcade back in the 80s. And it's still shitty today. And it's crazy that they're not going to change. It's wild to me. Huge fucking company, a company that is in a position that it is too big to fail. Too big to fail, and they cannot stand knowing that there are other wrestling companies out there, that there are other people doing this. They cannot stand it. It's baffling to me. So no, I'm not surprised that they're doing this, that Tony Khan came out and made this revelation. It's zero a shock. If anything, it continues to be a confirmation. And in my book, it sells. It brings home the concept that these guys are still the same. They will never change. And it will never be about the good of pro wrestling. It would always be about the good of WWE.